Hello everyone, I hope I was keeping well. So before anybody says anything, where's the camera? I just said I do without the camera today. Um, I don't really feel like having the camera on me. Just, I don't know why. Just that feeling. I kind of want to change it up, I suppose, something different instead of having to look at my face all the time. But yeah, the last few days, with the Russian exercises were moved off the Irish coast. It was supposed to be around Cork. Just off the Irish coast, not too far away from the Irish coast. They were moved, obviously, but it has sparked this debate, and it's good that it sparked this debate, and it has been acknowledged by government, because the government got a queer hop along with the defence forces, along with everybody in the country. If you would have said to me 2 years ago that the Russian Navy would have ships off the Irish coast for naval drills, I would have laughed at you, to be totally honest, because I wouldn't expect Russia out of all countries. Obviously, because Russia's a good distance away from Ireland, to be fair. Turning up with a fleet off the Irish coast. And it kind of just shows how weakened we are too as a nation, as in the feds. We don't have any fighting aircraft. Again, I say this straight. I don't think the Air Corps should have fighter aircraft like the British fighter jets or anything like that with guns on them. I don't think that's necessary. But I do think, and the one thing I feel very strongly about is having a decently sized navy. Obviously, as an island nation, we have a lot of waters around us with to protect. For smugglers and people bringing drugs, drug boats, people coming illegally in on boats into the country, we need to have a navy to protect our waters, to protect our waters, and to make sure everything goes smoothly as possible. And the Irish Naval Service, again, this is no offence to anybody in the army or any serviceman or any servicewoman. They're doing the best with what they have. I have huge respect for them. They've been very mistreated, in the way we get people into the defence forces. And it's quite as simple as this. We can give them an endless amount of equipment, every bit of equipment under the sun. We can even give them tanks and artillery and everything like that. But the one thing that's going to encourage people into the defence force, and we need to acknowledge this, and this is the main issue for members, because there's a lot of young people would join up in the army in the morning if they left school. They would. But it's the pay. If you don't get paid, because you have to live a life outside the army. You want to have a family. You want to buy things, you want to buy a house, you want to buy a car. People need to live. In the army, the pay in the army, it's just, it's not worth going in and training and putting all that time and effort. It is not worth the money, in other words, in time. You would get a better job. There's people who left the army to work in Tesco, and that tells you all you need to know. Because people getting paid more in Tesco at one stage than in the defence forces in Ireland. And people who trained up, because again, you don't go on a whiff onto the defence force. You have to train. You have to learn how to use the gun. You have to learn. It's all these skills you need to learn. And again, it takes time, and it takes a lot of effort. And again, for somebody to leave and just say what the work in text goes, it really just tells you all you need to know. But yeah, that was a while ago. But yeah, just hearing the story from the Irish Examiner, take for example, the Irish Navy, excuse me, have a motorboat, a defence motorboat, a patrol motorboat, if you may use that, for Irish waters. So they have it built and everything like that. They don't have the manpower. So what's the point of building the ship? And there's even ships in the Irish Navy that are docked, patrol ships, that are still in port. I think there's 2 or 3 in port because they haven't got the manpower to operate it. So my thing is, why do you have the ships if you don't want to put people on, if you don't want to pay people to service on them? But yeah, it is unbelievable that, take for example, they need 200 crew, I think, for this motorboat to talk about, and I think they only have 100 and something crew, 112 crew or something like that for it. So they're lacking a good lot of, so they're lacking a good majority of the crew they need for that boat. So yeah, and they were talking too in the Air Corps about getting a cargo plane for when they go overseas. The Irish Defence Forces and peacekeeping missions, and obviously I do welcome that. Every army should have at least a cargo plane, some kind of army cargo plane to help it get from to and fro locations. The United Kingdom has a lot, and the Netherlands, even other countries have more than Ireland. Every other army has its own way of getting to a country and getting out of a country with military equipment, instead of relying on NATO and relying on the United Nations. So Ireland needs to get up to gear on that. But I do should think that we need to pay out. Definitely need to pay our troops a fair wage and a decent wage, livable wage. Both the army, and I do think the more we don't really have to invest that much in the air, as far as I can see, and as far as I can tell. The one thing with our strength is our main army on the ground, our men and women in the only sections of the army. We need to invest in that. We need to get better. Well, I don't know about better guns, but pay them better. We need to get a few more armoured vehicles, things like that. up-to-date jeeps, things like better equipment. Now, I'm not suggesting that we should get tanks or anything like that. I don't think Ireland should really have huge amount of tanks. But again, you can use this argument that even Switzerland has more tanks. Like we have 0 tanks in the Irish Defence Forces. Switzerland has more tanks than the Irish Defence Forces. Even Finland, both neutral countries, have more tanks than the Irish Defence Forces. But yeah, we need to invest, and that's the simple stuff. We need to invest because again, it's funny how Sinn Féin randomly came up with this and figured out that the Defence Forces are actually something. Because we're talking about funding the Navy. But what good is funding the Navy if it can't even go onto the water with the manpower it has? And again, the biggest thing out of this too was the fishermen stood up more to the Russians than the Irish Navy went, and that they didn't fight them off. Because, it was very intimidating, I have to say, that the Russian fleet turned up off the Irish coast, let's be fair. It's very intimidating. And especially when there's nothing. And the Defence Forces did say, and it was said in the newspaper, that the Defence Forces can't defend Ireland. It's not feasible. The manpower and the equipment they have, it can't be defended. In other words, the amount of coastline and things like that needs to be defended is too big. And with the too little resources they have and the little manpower they have, it's impossible. Like, it's purely impossible to defend the nation with this resources. But yeah, we truly need to invest more because again, we don't know what can come tomorrow. And again, it would be a good career for a lot of young people. We could get a good lot of young people because I say a lot of young people would love to join the Defence Forces. As soon as they leave school, they love to join it. But it's the pay, and that's what's holding people back. It's the pay. It's not the people not patriotic enough or don't want to die for the country. Every one of them in Oakland and Heron, in the Navy and the Army and the Air Corps, I'm sure are very, very, very capable people and very capable soldiers and are willing to put their life on the line for this country to protect its citizens and to preserve its sovereignty. I have no doubt about that. It's the politicians in the door. The Minister of the Defence beforehand, Paul Keogh, the idiot he is, and then we have Simon Coveney, which I don't know he do anything about the Defence Force, but he said he'd look for more funding, and obviously I welcome that. But the one thing that we need to focus on first of all, before we get any equipment or anything like that, is getting men, is paying the men and paying them properly. And then, because I'm not saying we should build 100 new naval ships in the morning, we get the men to put on the ships we have at the moment, and then we go from there. And we pay them a fair wage and we give them the best quality of life we can. Because that's the least we could deserve, because it's not an easy life, the army. I'm sure you would agree, up early in the morning, go for exercise, and it's not easy. It's not easy. But yeah, we need to invest more into the Defence Force. And just in the last quote, I was kind of everywhere here. What was it? Luxembourg has more defence spending than Ireland. Luxembourg spends about 4% of its GDP on defence, and Luxembourg's in the middle of Europe, surrounded by NATO countries and European countries. There's not much of a threat. But you can say they are NATO. But they do spend 4% of the GDP on NATO, on the defence, on their army. And Ireland spends about 1%, barely 1%, 0.7%. I think is the statistic in Europe. So Ireland has the lowest in Europe, in other words. Even other countries, Malta, I think, even has bigger defence spending. And then you have other countries. Estonia has just enough bigger than us. But yeah, we do need to invest. We do need to take it more seriously, and that's really it. So fund the Defence Forces. Thank you.